Hello horror fans, it's Andrea from Popcorn Horror, and in this episode we're going to be looking at our pick for the top 5 visually stunning horror films. Although they're usually ignored by the mainstream awards, there have been countless horror films that have really pushed the boundaries of cinematography. With striking and captivating imagery, beautiful set designs and unique colours, these are the horror movies that you just can't keep your eyes off of. We're not necessarily saying that they're the best or the scariest movies, but they are the films that we want to step inside and explore the scenery and world they create. Number 5, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. We're going all the way back to 1920 for the first film on our list, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. It's a silent film, so it's forced by technology to rely exclusively on visuals to tell the story. It concerns a sleepwalker controlled by sinister showmen, and is often cited as a masterpiece of German expressionist cinema. Caligari is often considered the first developed attempt to show madness, or recreate the visuals of a disturbed mind. The sets feature painted backdrops with skewed lines and perspectives aimed at disorientating the viewer. The now iconic death mask visual also helps convey its themes of fear and instability. The film's visuals also include prominent sharp points, twisted and spiralling buildings, tilted windows and narrow claustrophobic streets. The landscape of Holston Wall, the village setting, is painted on canvas rather than an actual set, and streaks of light and shadows were painted rather than being reconstructed live. All of these elements combined make for an uneasy and disorientating experience that continues to influence modern filmmakers. Number 4, Let the Right One In. Let the Right One In is a Swedish romantic vampire film, focused on the relationship between a child vampire and a bullied young boy. Sadly, the film wasn't a massive hit on release, although it has now developed a cult following, probably because it was released the same year as a far inferior vampire romance movie. The film is set in Stockholm, but was filmed in Blackburg, 600 miles north. This was done to create the snowy environment the film is now famous for. For the most part, the movie uses a lot of grey and bluish palettes, adding to the themes of loneliness and isolation. Watching the film, you can almost feel the chill wind of the setting. These colours are sometimes disrupted by bursts of red, usually blood attributed to Eli, the young vampire. The film's cinematographer Hoytvi Hoytma invented a new technique for lighting Let the Right One In. Known as spray light, its creator described the result of this method as dull electrical light captured in a can and sprayed across a set like hairspray. The film also captures a sense of stillness by using a single fixed camera. This means that there was little handheld camera work and few cuts in the film, helping to create one of the most visually interesting horror films of the past 10 years. Number 3, The Shining. Kind of an obvious one, but we couldn't leave Stanley Kubrick's visual horror masterpiece off the list. It's hard to know where to begin with this one, as visually there's just so much going on. From the mind-bending, sprawling hotel setting to gorgeous panorama shots, there's no shortage of things to look at. The layout of the Overlook Hotel is architecturally impossible, on purpose. The Overlook set was the largest set ever constructed on the sound stages at EMI Elstree Studios in the UK, and included a full-scale model of the hotel's exterior. The opening aerial shots show the real Timberline Lodge in Oregon, an inspiration for the overall look of the hotel. The camera used was revolutionary at the time, as it had the ability to separate its operators' movement from the cameras. The Shining was one of the first films to use the technology, and it resulted in some of the film's most memorable visuals. The shot of Danny, for example, pedalling up and down the hotel corridors, made use of the camera's ability to pass within less than an inch of objects, walls or floors. Kubrick has also become celebrated for a style of filmmaking called symmetrical mannered classicism, which features smooth tracking shots and single-point perspective framings, contributing to a God's eye view of events, if you will. Long gliding shots and editing that falls into hypnotic rhythms also create a sickly, dreamy feeling. There's also a lot of symmetry in general in the film, most notably in the identical twin sisters, which helps with the Jekyll and Hyde style transformation Jack undergoes. To be honest, we could dedicate several videos to this topic, there's just so much to talk about. And if you are interested in learning more, we definitely recommend the documentary Room 237, which offers analysis from the film's most devoted fans. Number 2, Suspiria. Dario Argento's cult Italian horror movie Suspiria is an intense visual experience. It showcases many of the visuals Argento became renowned for, including a style of filming using anamorphic lenses. This means shooting a widescreen picture using a non-widescreen format. This leads to interesting effects not seen with traditional camera techniques, including a lens flare producing blue tinted lines when a light source is filmed in the dark. It also makes characters look somewhat unnatural, making their faces slightly out of proportion and sometimes impacting their perceived height or weight. The film includes many references to the Snow White fairy tale and uses the vivid primary red colours associated with the poison apple. Suspiria was one of the final films to use Technicolor print process, which produces much more vivid colours than modern techniques and helps with the surreal, nightmarish feel of the film. If you imagine the colours from The Wizard of Oz or Gone with the Wind applied to a brutally gory horror film, then you should have an idea what to expect from Suspiria. But even the blood is a treat for the eyes in Suspiria. The scene where a dancer falls into barbed wire showcases the beautiful rich reds of the blood effects here. Argento stated that the look of the film drew influence from Victorian literature, mythology and even Disney animation. This strange blend makes for an incredible visual experience that feels at times like a surreal dream or drug-induced hallucination. Number 1. Trick or Treat. Despite being released less than 10 years ago, Trick or Treat has been embraced by horror fans as a modern anthology classic and Halloween must-watch. It started life as a straight-to-DVD movie that earned such a cult following that a sequel is now in the works, and director Michael Dougherty was given a substantially larger budget to direct last year's holiday horror Krampus. But how did a little non-franchised horror movie get to this point? Probably, we think, because of its distinct, beautiful visuals. It was released just as 80s anthology movies were beginning to be viewed with a sense of vintage and nostalgia, and Trick or Treat feels like a loving homage to these movies. If you imagine Halloween as a place and time and location, Trick or Treat is probably the closest you can get to realising this on screen. The director has explained that the short stories the movie presents in its anthology format represent Halloween at the various stages of life. There's something for older viewers to relate to, but the warm, glowing visuals can also transport them back to the magic of their childhood Halloween memories. Many modern horror films now fall into one of two visual categories: gritty and raw, or glossy in Hollywood, found footage, or big-budget shiny remake. Trick or Treat is a refreshing change of pace, with a traditional cinematography style that brings together many of the horror films that inspired it. The visuals really make the festivities and the wonder of Halloween. The cosy but spooky looking town, the scores of intricate jack-o'-lanterns, the rich orange palette meshed with heavy dark shadows, the adorable but threatening character of Sam, the movie's mascot. We've watched this one every Halloween since its release, but if you dim the lights and grab a toffee apple, you can probably convince yourself it's Halloween thanks to the visuals that make Trick or Treat number 1 on our list. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. You can find more awesome horror content at popcornhorror.com, where you can also let us know what topics you think we should cover next. And remember, if you like our videos, click that wee subscribe button. And if you check out the description below, you can get a link to our Patreon page where you can find out how to support us to create the best online indie horror content. Till next time.